Wine tells the most beautiful story of South Africa, and also it's without a doubt South Africa has the most accurately documented wine story in the world. We're the only country in the world that actually knows when we made wine. On the 2nd of February 1659, Governor van Riebeeck wrote on his journal, "Praise be to God, for today we made wine for the first time from the Cape's virgin grapes."
We've now decided that the sale, the dispensing, and the distribution of alcohol will be suspended with immediate effect.
My name is Teach. I work for Fairview. I've worked here for over almost 7 years working for Fairview. So with this situation now, it's tough for everyone. We've almost 25 people working for this establishment, but because of this, we only have 6 people working. The front of the house is only 2 waiters working, which is so hard for other people that are not working today, because mostly people come in for a glass of wine, and because we're not doing that anymore, so it's difficult for people just to come to have a food and a bottle of a tin of Coke or appetizer or cappuccino. So it has impacted a lot on us and some other guys that are not with us today. Otherwise, could have been better maybe if we could have wines being allowed to be sold in the restaurant. Could be better.
The direct impact of this, and if you think about it, close to 400,000 people in the Western Cape are directly impacted, direct and indirectly impacted by the wine industry. Now just remember, if you're making wine, obviously you've got bottles, you've got closures, you've got corks, you've got suppliers, you've got transporters, you've got so many people in this whole value chain. And then on a farm, you've got all your laborers. Now just remember, if this industry is halted like it's now and many people start getting out of the industry, what happens to those skilled people, especially skilled labor? We're not an unskilled industry. Our laborers need to know how to prune the vines, they need to know how to make wine, they need to know how to drive tractors and stuff like that. They're all skilled people that have come through 2-3 generations on a farm like this.
So wine grape farming is quite a complicated setup. It's just not like other farmer that plants a seed like a butternut, and 6 months later he's got a product that he can sell. If you start a block of vines, you buy from the nursery a vine, it gets planted, and only in year 5 you start to get production from that block of vines. And then only in year 7 to 10 years, you only get your production that you want, you get your quality that you want. So if you take it from the newly planted vine into the bottled wine, it's almost a 10-year timeline that you have before you only get your first money out of selling those wines.
Yeah, I think the whole COVID debacle and the fact that we're still in lockdown, in my opinion, unnecessary 4.5 months down the line, has had such an incredible negative effect on our economy. And in my game, people think it's the restaurant trade or the wine trade that these so-called divisions is isolated. They're not. We're all connected. Restaurants and coffee shops, we buy wine. We need that. The wine farmer and winemaker needs to sell his product on to hotels. Hotels are closed. coffee shops now, we need eggs, we need meat, bread, all these things. So it's got a massive ripple effect, a negative ripple effect. The so-called rules and regulations of COVID that gets sort of, you get the idea, it's thought out or sucked out of a thumb overnight, hasn't been thought through in detail, study hasn't been conducted properly or what the effect would be. We do not got any clear indications from government why they got to that, when will it eventually stop, so people can plan properly, people can plan their lives, their businesses, and make provision. At this stage, it's like a big black tunnel, you stare down and there's no light at the end of the tunnel.
So we were not allowed to prepare wines for that. We were not allowed to do any bottling. The label companies that print our labels, they were not operating because they were classified as non-essential. Bottling companies wouldn't bottle for you because they were classified as non-essential. So you were caught between a rock and a hard place. Then suddenly, when we again were allowed to export and we started to prepare the orders, the Department of Agriculture were closed. Being a governmental organization now, you cannot export if you do not have export certificates issued by the Department of Agriculture. You also need certification seals on your wines, also issued by the Department of Agriculture. So once again, you were preparing all the orders, you were ready to export, but you cannot enter the port of export if you do not have the applicable documentation. So wines were not going anywhere.
Everybody along the chain from supply to producer and eventually customer is affected, and it's really sad to see small businesses going under because there's just no money to put into marketing for that, because we all try and protect the source, our grapes, our jobs, and the very things close to our heart, but we need to reach out and look after everybody in this chain.
In our country here, where so many people were out of work to start with, and the number will probably treble or tenfold more afterwards. And most probably you're going to have more people dying of hunger after all this than are actually going to be killed by the COVID itself.
It's difficult to put words to ask, how was this decision made? How was this decision made to ruin a whole industry? An industry that brings in over 7 billion rand in taxes for the government. Already an industry where the farmer, if you look at a bottle of wine of 40 rand, where the farmer gets about 1.50 rand and the government gets over 7 rand for that same bottle.
And this is different to beer, where every 30 days you start up a new ferment, and or brandy or whiskey that gets distilled and held over. This is an agricultural product, off the land, that's got in certain time, certain things have got to happen to it, processes. And now we're sitting at this point in time with 300, maybe going to 400 million litres of oversupply. And then our industry body, Vinpro, says, no, but then next year the guys must just go and cut the grapes of the vines. So how does a farmer not get income this year and not get income next year? How does he look after the vines? How does he keep them growing? This is not like if I've been farming wheat this year, I can change it to millies next year. It just doesn't work because we've got very old vines that have been for 40 years, some of these vines in the vineyards that we've been looking after, that we make a specific style wine from. And that's where the problem is, and that's where I think the disastrous effect is going to reach out and reach everybody.
And wine is not just a beverage. I've had an opportunity to travel the world also to taste other people's wines. I've been to Chateau Lafite, where I was sitting there with Mr. Rothschild tasting his wines. And at some point, I was asked my views on those wines. It's not a matter of patriotism, but I mentioned that the wines were great, but there's nothing that will ever be far greater for me than South African wines. And the reason for that is the familiarity of home and the fact that you can pick up a Stellenbosch Cabernet Sauvignon and you will pick up scents of Buchu, Fynbos, or things that only you can know. I was born in here. I was brought up in here. Wine is not a drink to me. It is my heritage. It is my identity. It is also my livelihood, of which it sustains my life and that of my family.
I think they've laid off 400 workers here at Fairview. So you can imagine it's 400 workers, but just think the amount of families that have been affected. So it isn't only 400 workers. It's times how many times? Probably 4. So you're actually laying off. You're actually not feeding 1,600 people, and that's just one farm. So the sooner they can come back and sort things out, the better. People are really struggling at this stage. At this stage, it looks as though and the COVID has started to flatten out. And so I think all of us must just beg for the farmers and for the workers above all. So I think we must all be on our knees and hope that things happen very soon.
There's already talks of next year that a lot of wine grape farmers won't be able to process even the grapes because there won't be space in all the cellars to do that. So would a wine farmer then leave the grapes on the vine, or would you just rather take it out and plant something else? And with that, it's going to have a major impact on the whole wine culture and all the tourism that it brings to the Western Cape.
We are the only country in the world that is not allowed to trade, that is not allowed to continue to tell our story, to tell our history, to tell our heritage. And it really bleeds our heart painfully for you not to be able to look at us and listen to us. This is a pleading voice from a very patriotic, South African loving citizen.